The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council building floated in space between three giant stars. Inside the dome, alien leaders from across the galaxy sat around a huge round table made of pure diamond. The table was so big that some aliens needed telescopes to see the faces on the other side. Council leader Vextar was a tall creature that looked like a purple octopus walking on two legs. His 8 tentacles moved around him as he spoke. His voice was deep and scary. Today he was more angry than usual. He had been reading reports about Earth and the humans who lived there. Vextar slammed one of his tentacles on the diamond table. The sound was so loud that it made the crystal walls shake. All the other aliens stopped talking and looked at him. "The humans want to join our council," he said. His tentacles were waving in the air like angry snakes. "They think they are ready to be part of our peaceful galaxy. But look at what they do on their own planet." He pressed a button and a huge screen appeared in the air above the table. The screen showed pictures from Earth. There were videos of human wars with explosions and fire. There were pictures of polluted rivers and dead forests. There were news reports about humans fighting each other over money and land. The bird-like krill aliens made loud chirping sounds. They had feathers that changed color when they got excited. Right now, their feathers were bright red, which meant they were very upset. The krill leader was named Pixel. She stood up on her thin bird legs and pointed at the screen with one wing. "Look at them," she chirped. "They cannot even keep peace on one small planet. How can we trust them with the secrets of space travel? What if they bring their wars to our worlds?" The golem aliens were made of living stone. They were very slow to speak, but when they did, everyone listened. The golem leader was a giant creature called Rockmore. He looked like a mountain with eyes. When he spoke, his voice sounded like rocks falling down a cliff. "Humans are dangerous," he rumbled. "They make weapons that can destroy entire cities. They fight wars that last for years. They cut down their forests and poison their oceans. We have watched them for 100 Earth years. They never change." But not all the aliens agreed. The elders from the planet Zorian were very old and wise. They had lived for thousands of years and had seen many species grow and change. Elder Hashman was the oldest of them all. She looked like a tall, thin woman, but her skin was silver and her eyes were completely white. She stood up slowly and looked around the table at all the other aliens. Her voice was soft, but everyone could hear her clearly. "Perhaps we should remember our own history," she said. "Many of our species were also violent when they were young. The krill used to be pirates who attacked trading ships. The golem fought wars that lasted for centuries. Even we elders once conquered other worlds." Vextar's tentacles moved faster. "That was different," he shouted. "We learned to be peaceful. We grew beyond our violent nature. But humans are different. They seem to enjoy fighting. They make entertainment about war. They teach their children to play games about killing." On Earth, Ambassador Lee Day was working in his small office in New York City. Lee Day was a smart man who spoke 7 languages and had studied alien cultures for 20 years. He had been chosen to represent all of humanity in their request to join the Galactic Council. Lee Day knew the aliens were meeting today to decide about humanity. He had sent them thousands of documents showing the best of human culture. He had sent them music by great composers like Mozart and Beethoven. He had sent them paintings by artists like Van Gogh and Picasso. He had sent them stories about human heroes who saved others and made sacrifices for peace. But Lee Day also knew that the aliens were scared of humans. They saw the wars and violence, and they did not understand that humans were trying to change. They did not see the hospitals where humans saved lives every day. They did not see the schools where humans taught children to be kind. They did not see the scientists working to clean the environment. Back in the council chamber, the debate continued. Some aliens wanted to give humans a chance. Others wanted to keep humans away from the galaxy forever. The argument went on for hours. Finally, Vextar called for quiet. "The decision must be made," he announced. "All those who think humans should be allowed to join the council, raise your appendages." Only the elders raised their hands. 3 votes out of 50. "All those who think humans should be rejected, raise your appendages." 45 tentacles, claws, wings, and stone arms went up in the air. "The vote is clear," Vextar declared. "Humans are too dangerous to join our peaceful galaxy. But we cannot let them stay here either. They might develop faster than light travel on their own. They might find our worlds and bring their violence to us. Elder Ashman stood up again. "What are you suggesting?" she asked. Her silver skin was beginning to glow, which meant she was getting upset. "I am suggesting that we give them a choice," Vextar replied. His tentacles were now moving very slowly, which meant he was being very serious. "They can leave this galaxy voluntarily, or we will make them leave by force." The other aliens began talking loudly. Some thought this was too harsh. Others thought it was not harsh enough. But Vexistar had made up his mind. "We will send them a message," he said. "They have 1 Earth year to build ships and leave our galaxy. If they refuse, we will destroy their planet and end the human threat forever." On Earth, Lee Day was eating dinner with his family when his communication device started beeping. It was a message from the Galactic Council. His hands shook as he read it. His wife, Kim Soo, noticed his face getting pale. "What is wrong?" she asked. Lee Day looked at his children playing in the next room. He thought about all the humans on Earth who were dreaming of traveling to the stars. He thought about the scientists and artists and teachers who just wanted to share their knowledge with other species. "We have to leave," he whispered. "The Council voted against us. We have 1 year to leave the galaxy, or they will destroy us all." The message spread around Earth within hours. President Park Soon called emergency meetings with world leaders. Scientists like Dr. Kim Tae began working on impossible projects to build ships that could carry billions of people to safety. But as the humans began preparing for their forced exodus, they did not know that some aliens were already beginning to doubt the Council's decision. Elder Ashman returned to her quarters and looked out at the stars. "They are making a terrible mistake," she said to herself. "One day this galaxy will need the humans, and they will not be here to help us." She was right, but it would take years before the other aliens understood what they had lost. 5 years had passed since the last human ship left the galaxy. The great exodus was complete. Earth was now empty and silent. The moon bases were shut down. The space stations that humans had built around other planets were abandoned and floating, dark in space. Council leader Vextar sat in his private chambers looking at reports from across the galaxy. Everything seemed peaceful. There were no more human conflicts to worry about. No more violent broadcasts from Earth. No more requests from humans wanting to join alien societies. "This is exactly what we wanted," he told himself. "A peaceful galaxy without the chaos that humans always brought." But Vextar did not know that other aliens were starting to notice changes. Changes that made them uncomfortable. On the trading world of Nexus Prime, the alien merchants were having problems. Nexus Prime was located exactly halfway between the inner core worlds and the outer rim planets. It was the perfect place for buying and selling goods from across the galaxy. Merchant Colvin was a krill trader who had been selling goods for 30 years. He noticed that fewer and fewer ships were coming to Nexus Prime. The trading routes that connected different parts of the galaxy were becoming dangerous. Pirates were attacking cargo ships almost every day. Before the humans left, there had been human patrol ships protecting the trade routes. The humans had called them Space Coast Guard ships. They were fast and well-armed, and they kept the pirates away. But now the pirates knew that no one was protecting the cargo ships. They attacked without fear. Colvin lost 3 ships in 1 month. Pirates took all his goods and left his crews floating in space. Some of his friends were not so lucky. Their crews never made it to the rescue pods. "Why is no one protecting us?" he asked the other merchants. "Where are the patrol ships?" The other aliens looked at each other nervously. They all knew the answer, but no one wanted to say it out loud. The humans had been protecting the trade routes. The humans had been the ones keeping space safe for everyone. But admitting this would mean admitting that the Council had made a mistake. On the planet Harmony, there was a school where alien children from different species learned together. The teacher was a gentle golem named Pebbable. She was much smaller than most golems, and her stone skin was smooth and gray. The children loved story time best of all, but lately the children kept asking for the same thing. "Tell us about the human heroes," Pebbable said, a small krill chick with bright blue feathers. Yes, "Tell us about the humans who fought the space monsters," said a young golem whose stones were still soft and growing. Pebbable felt sad every time they asked. She used to tell them stories about human explorers who discovered new worlds. She told them about human scientists who cured diseases. She told them about human artists who created beautiful music that could make any alien cry with joy. But the human stories were not just stories. They were real history. And now there would be no new stories because there were no more humans. "I am sorry, little ones," she said. "The humans are gone. They will not be coming back. We must learn about other heroes now." But the children were not happy with stories about other species. Somehow the human stories had been more exciting. Humans seemed to do impossible things. They never gave up even when everything looked hopeless. Far away on the mining planet Kristen, the workers were facing a different problem. Kristen was rich in rare metals that were needed to build spaceships and computers. The miners worked deep, underground in dangerous tunnels. The human mining teams had always been the best at this dangerous work. They used special machines that could dig faster and safer than anyone else. They also seemed to have a natural ability to find the richest deposits of valuable metals. Mine supervisor Throcknall was a golem who had worked with human miners for 15 years. He missed them terribly. His current mining teams were slower and less efficient. They found less metal and had more accidents. The humans always knew what to do when something went wrong, he told his assistant. They could fix any machine. They could solve any problem. They never got scared, even in the deepest tunnels. Without the human miners, Kristen was producing only half as much metal as before. This meant that new spaceships were taking longer to build. Some projects had to be canceled completely. In the Outer Rim territories, things were getting even worse. The frontier worlds had always depended on human colonists and explorers. Humans seemed to love going to dangerous, unexplored planets that other species thought were too risky. Planet Corvash was a harsh world with terrible storms and poisonous plants, but it also had soil that could grow amazing crops. Human farmers had been slowly turning Corvash into a garden world. When the humans left, they took their farming knowledge with them. The alien colonists who stayed behind did not know how to work the soil properly. The crops began to fail. The storms damaged more buildings because humans were no longer there to predict the weather patterns. Colony leader Vesistara was a Zorian elder who had lived on Corvash for 50 years. She watched the colony slowly falling apart. "We are not good." At this, she admitted to herself. Humans had skills we never understood. They could make things grow in impossible places. They could survive in conditions that would kill most aliens. But perhaps the biggest change was something that most aliens did not even notice at first. The galaxy had become quieter. Humans had filled space with their broadcasts, their music, their news, their entertainment, their messages to family and friends. Even when aliens did not understand human languages, they had grown used to the constant chatter from the human worlds. Now space was silent, except for the official communications between alien governments. Elder Ashmon was meditating in her private garden when she first noticed the silence. She had always complained that humans made too much noise in space. Their radio signals interfered with Zorian telepathic communications, but now she missed the noise. "The galaxy feels empty," she said to her assistant. "It is too quiet, too lonely." Her assistant did not understand. Surely a quiet galaxy was better than a noisy one. But Ashmon was beginning to understand something important. The noise had not just been random chatter. It had been the sound of life, of energy, of a species that was always growing and exploring and creating new things. Without that energy, the galaxy seemed frozen. Nothing new was happening. No one was pushing boundaries or taking risks or dreaming of impossible things. Late at night, Ashmon would look up at the stars and wonder where the humans had gone. Were they building new colonies around distant suns? Were they still exploring and discovering and creating? She hoped they were, because deep in her heart she was beginning to suspect that the galaxy would need them again someday. And when that day came, the humans might not be willing to help the people who had thrown them away. The warning came at 3 a.m. Galactic Standard Time. Deep space sensors on the outer rim detected something massive moving between the stars. The readings were strange and frightening. Whatever was out there was bigger than any ship the aliens had ever seen. Captain Yeldar of the monitoring station Omega-7 was the first to see the sensor data. She was a krill with bright yellow feathers that turned white when she got scared. Right now her feathers were completely white. She called her superior immediately. "Commander, this is not a drill," she said into her communication device. "We have multiple contacts approaching the Kristen system. They are huge, sir, bigger than our largest battleships." The commander was a sleepy golem named Borthak. He had been mining supervisor before joining the space patrol. He was not prepared for what Captain Yeldar was telling him. "How many ships?" he asked while trying to wake up completely. "Sir, I count at least 50 vessels. Maybe more. They are moving in formation and they are not responding to our communication attempts." On the peaceful mining world of Kristen, the colonists were going about their normal daily work. The miners were digging for rare metals. The farmers were growing food in the underground gardens. Children were playing in the safe tunnels that had been carved out for families. No one on Kristen knew that death was coming from space. The Devourer ships appeared without any warning. One moment the sky was clear with 3 bright suns shining down. The next moment massive black shapes blocked out the light. The Devourer vessels were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They looked like giant mechanical whales with mouths that could swallow entire cities. Their hulls were so black that they seemed to absorb light itself. Looking at them hurt the eyes. Mine supervisor Throcknall was checking equipment when the shadow fell across his work area. He looked up and saw something impossible. The ship above him was so big that he could not see where it ended. "What in the name of the stone gods is that?" he whispered. The Devourer ship opened its massive mouth. A beam of pure darkness shot down toward the planet's surface. Everywhere the beam touched, things simply disappeared. Buildings vanished. Mountains were erased. Even the air itself seemed to be sucked away. Throcknall tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The darkness beam swept across the mining complex. One moment, he was there, and the next moment he was gone. Not killed, not destroyed, simply gone as if he had never existed. In 3 hours, the entire planet of Kristen disappeared. 5 million colonists vanished without a trace. The Devourer ships moved on toward their next target. The news reached the Galactic Council within 6 hours. Emergency alarms rang throughout the Crystal Dome. Council members rushed to their seats around the diamond table. Many of them were still in their sleeping clothes. Council leader Vextar stood at the head of the table. His tentacles were shaking with fear and confusion. His purple skin had turned almost white. "Kristen is gone," he announced. "The entire planet has been consumed by unknown vessels. We have lost all contact with the system." The alien leaders began, talking loudly. Some did not believe what they were hearing. Others demanded immediate military action. But most were simply terrified. Counselor Pixall of the Krill was the first to ask the important question. Her feathers were flashing between red and black, which meant she was both angry and scared. "What kind of weapons can make an entire planet disappear?" she chirped. "Who has this technology? Is this some kind of new human weapon?" Vextar shook his head. "The humans have been gone for 8 years. Their ships went beyond our galaxy. This is something else." Elder Ashmon stood up slowly. Her silver skin was glowing brighter than anyone had seen before. She looked very old and very tired. "Need access to the ancient archives," she said. "The oldest records from before the council was formed. If these creatures can consume planets, they are not new to our galaxy." The archives were kept in the deepest levels of the council building. They contained records that were thousands of years old. Most of the information was written in languages that no one remembered how to read properly. Elder Ashmon spent 2 days searching through the old files. She found references to something called the Void Eaters. Then she found mentions of the Star Devourers. Finally, she found a complete record that made her blood run cold. The document was written by an ancient Zorian scholar named Ethmoran. It described a great war that happened long ago. Creatures from the dark space between galaxies had tried to consume all life. They ate planets, stars, and even empty space itself. The galaxy had been saved by warriors called the Fierce Ones. These Warriors fought with incredible courage and skill. They used weapons that could hurt the Devourers. They sacrificed themselves to protect other species. But the document did not say what happened to the fierce ones after the war. They seemed to have vanished from history. Elder Ashman brought her findings to an emergency council session. The chamber was packed with representatives from every species in the galaxy. Everyone wanted to know how to fight the Planet Eaters. The Devourers have returned, she announced. They tried to consume our galaxy once before. They were stopped by ancient warriors called the Fierce Ones. General Morketh of the Golem military stood up. His stone body was covered in weapons and armor. He looked like a walking fortress. "Where are these Fierce Ones now?" he rumbled. "Can we contact them? Do they still exist?" Elder Ashman looked around the chamber at all the frightened faces. She had spent another day researching the Fierce Ones. What she had discovered would shock everyone. "The Fierce Ones still exist," she said slowly. "But we know them by a different name now. We call them humans." The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens were shouting and arguing. Some refused to believe it. Others demanded proof. But Elder Ashman continued speaking. "The ancient descriptions match perfectly," she said. "The Fierce Ones were a young species that loved to fight. They had incredible courage and would never surrender. They protected other species even when it meant their own death." She paused and looked directly at Vextar. "The humans are the descendants of the warriors who saved our galaxy before, and we sent them away." As if summoned by her words, another emergency. Alarm began ringing. A new message appeared on the main screen. The Devourer fleet had attacked 2 more systems. The planets Harmony and Corvash were gone. The alien children who had loved human stories were dead. The colonists who had depended on human knowledge were consumed. The galaxy was being eaten piece by piece, and the only warriors who knew how to fight the Devourers were somewhere beyond the edge of known space. The humans had been banished to the dark void between galaxies, the same dark void where the Devourers lived. Vexitar realized with growing horror that they might have sent humanity directly into the arms of their ancient enemy. If the humans were dead then, the galaxy was doomed. But if the humans were still alive, they might be the only hope for survival. The question was whether the humans would be willing to save the people who had thrown them away. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen such chaos. Alien representatives were shouting at each other in dozens of different languages. Some were demanding immediate evacuation of their home worlds. Others wanted to surrender to the Devourers and hope for mercy. Council leader Vextar tried to maintain order, but his own tentacles were shaking with fear. In just 1 week, the Devourers had consumed 7 planets. Billions of innocent aliens had simply vanished without a trace. The military. Reports were getting worse every day. General Morketh stood before the council with charts and battle plans that meant nothing against an enemy that could eat entire worlds. "Our weapons cannot hurt them," he reported. "Laser cannons pass through their ships like light through water. Nuclear missiles explode against their hulls and cause no damage. Even our most powerful planet crackers have no effect." The Golem general looked defeated. His stone skin was cracked with stress lines. In all his centuries of military service, he had never faced an enemy that seemed impossible to fight. "We need the humans," Elder Ashman said for the 100th time. "They are our only hope. The ancient records are clear. Only the Fierce Ones knew how to hurt the Devourers." But Vexitar was still too proud to admit his mistake. "How do we even know the humans are still alive?" he demanded. "We sent them into the void between galaxies 8 years ago. That is where the Devourers come from. The humans are probably dead already." The chamber fell silent. Everyone was thinking the same terrible thought. What if they had sent humanity to die in the darkness? What if their only salvation was already gone? Captain Park Min sat in the pilot seat of her small scout ship called Last Hope. She was one of the few half-human, half-alien beings in the galaxy. Her mother had been human, and her father was a Zorian, elder. This made her unique and often lonely. When she was young, other alien children had called her names because she looked different. She had human eyes and human hair, but Zorian silver skin. She could think like a human but also had some Zorian telepathic abilities. Now her mixed heritage might be the key to saving everyone. I volunteer for the search mission, she told the council. I understand how humans think. I know their culture and their history. If anyone can find them, it is me. The other council members looked doubtful. Park Min was young and had never commanded a long-range mission, but they were desperate and running out of time. You will have 1 month, Vextar told her. If you cannot find the humans in 30 days, we must assume they are dead and try to find another solution. Park Min knew there was no other solution. She also knew that 1 month was not nearly enough time to search the infinite void between galaxies. But she nodded and accepted the mission anyway. Her ship Last Hope was small but fast. It had the most advanced sensors and communication equipment available. It also had enough supplies for a 6-month journey, even though she was only given 30 days. As Park Min flew toward the edge of the galaxy, she thought about her human mother. Kim Yeon had been a scientist who studied alien cultures. She had fallen in love with a Zorian diplomat and chose to stay in the galaxy when the other humans left. But Kim Yeon had died 3 years ago from a rare disease. Before she died, she had told Park Min stories about human courage and determination. Humans never give up, she had said. Even when everything looks impossible, they find a way. That is what makes them special. Park Min hoped her mother was right. She hoped the humans had survived their exile in the dark void. She hoped they would be willing to help after being treated so badly. The edge of the galaxy was marked by a region called the Barrier Zone. Beyond this point, there were no stars, no planets, and no light. It was just empty space stretching forever into darkness. Park Min's ship crossed into the void, and immediately her sensors started acting strangely. The darkness between galaxies was not really empty. It was filled with strange energy that interfered with normal equipment. She flew deeper into the void, calling out on all frequencies. She broadcast messages in every human language she knew. She sent out signals that any human ship would recognize. For 3 weeks, she found nothing. Her supplies were running low, and her ship's systems were starting to fail from the strange energy in the void. She was about to turn back when her sensors detected something impossible. There was a structure hidden in the darkness. It was huge and artificial and definitely not made by any known alien species. As Park Min flew closer, she realized what she was looking at. It was a space station bigger than any city. It was surrounded by thousands of ships of all different sizes, and the design was unmistakably human. The humans had not just survived their exile, they had thrived. But these were not the same humans who had left the galaxy 8 years ago. Park Min could see that immediately. The ships were sleek and deadly looking. They were covered in weapons and armor that she did not recognize. The space station itself looked like a fortress. It had massive gun turrets and shield generators. It looked like it was built for war. A voice came over her communication system. It was speaking perfect English with a Korean accent. Unknown vessel, you are entering restricted human space. State your business or prepare to be destroyed. Park Min felt her heart racing. She had found them. The humans were alive, but they sounded very different from the peaceful people who had been exiled. This is Captain Park Min of the Galactic Council ship Last Hope, she replied in English. I am half human. I need to speak with your leaders immediately. The galaxy is in terrible danger. There was a long pause. Then several human ships surrounded her vessel. They escorted her toward the massive space station. As they flew closer, Park Min could see human faces looking at her through the windows of the other ships, but their expressions were cold and hard. These humans looked like warriors. The space station was called New Terra. Inside, it was like a huge city with millions of people, but it was also clearly a military base. Everyone wore uniforms. Everyone carried weapons. Park Min was brought to the command center where she met Admiral Lee Wan. He was a tall man with gray hair and scars on his face. His eyes were sharp and intelligent, but also very cold. We know why you are here, he said without any greeting. We have been watching the Devourer attacks through our long-range sensors. We know the galaxy is being consumed. Park Min felt hope rising in her chest. If the humans knew about the attacks, then maybe they would help. Then you will come back, she said. You will help us fight them. Admiral Li Wan looked at her for a long moment. Behind him, other human officers were watching the conversation. Their faces showed no emotion at all. "Why should we?" he asked finally. "Your people threw us away like garbage. You called us dangerous and violent. You forced us to leave our home. Now you want us to come back and die for you." Park Min felt her hope crashing down. The humans were angry. They had every right to be angry. How could she convince them to help people who had rejected them? She thought about her mother's words, about human courage and determination, about never giving up even when things looked impossible. "Because that is who you are," she said quietly. "You are the fierce ones. You protect others even when they do not deserve it. That is what makes you human." The command center fell silent. Admiral Li Wan's cold expression changed slightly. For just a moment, Park Min saw something else in his eyes. She saw the spark of the ancient warriors who had once saved the galaxy. But would that spark be enough to overcome 8 years of exile and betrayal? The debate in the Human Council chamber went on for 3 days. The room was filled with military officers, scientists, and civilian leaders from across the human fleet. Everyone had an opinion about whether to help the galaxy that had rejected them. Commander Kim Tae, who had once been Dr. Kim Tae back on Earth, stood up to speak. He was older now, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 8 years building weapons and preparing for war. "We owe them nothing," he said firmly. "They called us violent and dangerous. They forced us to leave our homes. Let them face the devourers, alone. We have built new lives here in the void." Many of the younger humans agreed with him. They had grown up in exile. They had never seen Earth or the beautiful worlds of the galaxy. To them, the aliens were just enemies who had hurt their parents. But Admiral Li Wan was listening to other voices too. Captain Li Bong was now an old man, but he still remembered the good times when humans and aliens had worked together. He had friends among the krill traders and golem miners. "Not all aliens hated us," he said in his weak voice. "Many of them were kind to humans. The children in the schools loved our stories. The traders bought our goods fairly. The colonists on frontier worlds welcomed human farmers and engineers." He coughed and continued. "We are not doing this for the council leaders who banished us. We are doing it for the innocent people who never had a choice, the families with children, the workers just trying to live peaceful lives." The room fell quiet. Everyone knew that Captain Li Bong was dying. His words carried extra weight because they might be his last. Young Officer Park Soo stood up next. She was only 25, but she was one of the best military tacticians in the fleet. She had studied the ancient records about the First Devourer War. "If we do not stop them here, they will not stop with our old galaxy," she said. "The Devourers consume everything. Eventually they will find us here in the void. They will eat our new worlds and our children. This is not really about helping aliens. This is about survival." The debate continued through the night. Some humans wanted revenge against the aliens. Others wanted to prove they were better than their enemies. A few simply wanted to go home. Finally, Admiral Li Wan called for a vote. It was close, but the decision was made. The human fleet would return to fight the Devourers, but they would do it on their own terms. The human fleet that returned to the galaxy was unlike anything the aliens had ever imagined. There were over 10,000 ships of all sizes. The largest vessels were the size of small moons. The smallest were single-person fighters that moved faster than anything in space. All the ships were painted black, like the void between stars. They had weapons that used dark matter and quantum energy. They had shields that could bend space itself. They had engines that could travel faster than light without making any sound. The humans had spent 8 years preparing for exactly this kind of war. The first battle happened near the planet Serenity, where 2 million krill refugees were hiding from the Devourers. 3 massive Devourer ships had surrounded the planet and were preparing to consume it. The human fleet arrived without warning. One moment, the space around Serenity was empty. The next moment, it was filled with black ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. Admiral Li Wan commanded the battle from his flagship called Earth's Revenge. He watched as his ships moved into perfect formation around the Devourer vessels. The aliens who had built sensor stations to watch the battle could not believe what they were seeing. The human ships moved like they were dancing. Every vessel knew exactly where every other vessel would be. They worked together like parts of a single giant machine. When the humans opened fire, their weapons did something impossible. They hurt the Devourers. The dark matter cannons tore holes in Devourer hulls that had been invulnerable to every other weapon. The quantum torpedoes caused explosions that made the giant ships scream in pain. The space-bending missiles twisted reality itself and crushed Devourer vessels like tin cans. For the first time in the war, the Devourers retreated. The battle to save Serenity took only 4 hours. All 3 Devourer ships were destroyed. The human fleet had lost only 12 vessels, and most of their crews had escaped in rescue pods. News of the victory spread across the galaxy faster than light. Aliens who had given up hope suddenly believed they might survive. But the humans did not celebrate. They knew this was just the beginning. The war lasted 3 months. The human fleet fought battle after battle against the Devourer invasion. They used tactics that no other species had ever imagined. They sacrificed themselves to save alien worlds without hesitation. At the Battle of the Twin Suns, Captain Park Sue commanded a suicide mission to destroy the Devourer mothership. She flew her ship directly into the massive vessel's mouth and detonated a dark matter bomb that consumed both ships. Her last message was broadcast across the galaxy. "Tell the aliens we did this not because we forgive them, but because it was the right thing to do." At the Battle of the Crystal Nebula, Commander Kim Tae used his knowledge of physics to turn an entire star into a weapon. The resulting explosion destroyed 50 Devourer ships but also killed Kim Tae and his entire crew. The aliens watching these battles began to understand what they had lost when they banished humanity. The humans were not just good warriors. They were people willing to die for others even when those others had treated them badly. Elder Ashman watched the final battle from her meditation chamber. The last of the Devourer ships were being destroyed near the galactic core. The human fleet had won, but at terrible cost. Thousands of human ships had been destroyed. Millions of humans had died. When the fighting ended, Admiral Lee Wan met with the Galactic Council one last time. The meeting was held on a neutral space station halfway between human and alien space. Council leader Vextar looked much older now. His tentacles moved slowly and his purple skin was pale. The war had shown him how wrong he had been about humanity. "We owe you everything," he said quietly. "How can we ever repay what you have done for us?" Admiral Lee Wan looked tired but satisfied. His fleet had saved the galaxy, but the cost had been enormous. So many good people had died. "You can repay us by never making the same mistake again," replied. "Diversity makes the galaxy stronger, not weaker. Fear of differences leads to destruction." He paused and looked around the chamber at all the alien faces. "We are leaving again, but not because you are forcing us. We have found our place, among the distant stars. We have new worlds to explore and new challenges to face." Vextar felt panic rising in his chest. But who will protect the galaxy when the next threat comes? Lee Wan smiled for the first time in months. "You will. We have taught your military forces how to fight together. We have left behind weapon designs and tactical manuals. We have shown you that courage is more important than technology." The human fleet departed 3 days later. They left behind a changed galaxy, where aliens from different species worked together instead of staying separate. They left behind schools where children learned about human heroes who saved everyone. Most importantly, they left behind the understanding that sometimes the people who seem most dangerous are actually the ones most willing to protect others. The humans disappeared into deep space, heading toward new galaxies and new adventures. But their legend remained. When alien children asked about heroes, their teachers would tell them about the humans who came back to save everyone even though they did not have to. And in the darkest moments when new threats appeared, the aliens would remember the lesson of humanity. That true strength comes not from weapons or technology, but from the willingness to do what is right, no matter the cost.